Excuse me. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for your courtesy, and thank you, Ms. Hageman and Ms. Hoyle, for being here and for your testimony. I appreciate you all coming before the Rules Committee. Ms. Hageman, I thought I want to perhaps spend a bit of time unpacking some of the conversation you just had with Mr. Norman. We both represent Western states, Rocky Mountain West, of course, from congressional neighbors, if you will. I represent northwestern Colorado, as you know, a long border with Wyoming. And I understand that you held a town hall pretty recently in Wyoming. I don't know if
10 of them.
What was that?
10.
10 of them.
Town halls.
So I am curious, so you've held a lot of them, way more than a lot of your colleagues on that side of the aisle, I will say, so I appreciate that. I've held 10 as well in my district, but I'm wondering, what are you hearing at those town halls? What do folks, just give us a sense of the flavor of what folks are concerned about in the state of Wyoming.
They're concerned about energy production, making sure that we get back to energy independence, which is part of the reason why I think it's so important to rename this to Gulf of America in light of the amount of production. It accounts for about 15% of our oil and gas production in the country. So that's one of the big issues that you hear wherever you go, whether you're in town halls or meetings, is the importance of protecting our energy industry. I hear a lot about ensuring that we are implementing the agenda and the policies that Donald Trump ran on. Okay. This being one of them. I think people are,
so wait,
again,
can
I think people
Can I just ask you a question on that? Let me just make sure, because I understood the first part. You said energy dominance, protecting the energy industry is something you hear from folks that you represent in Wyoming, and I appreciate that. And then you said implementing President Trump's policies. So you're saying that there are people at your town halls who are demanding that you rename the Gulf of Mexico?
I think it's across the entire board.
Has that come up at any of your town halls?
Actually, it has.
It has?
Also, yes, and it's also come up in the meetings
that I've had with people.
The
people of Wyoming were demanding that you rename the Gulf of Mexico?
So you use the word demand.
Oh, asking.
Very few people come to me and demand anything.
Well, I guess
what people say is that they want us to implement the agenda that Donald Trump ran on.
And that includes renaming the Gulf of Mexico?
Because it has to do with pride in America and what America stands
Representative,
for.
I would just simply say,
well, you can argue with me as much as you'd like to.
It's not about an argument. I would love to attend one of the.
I would welcome you to attend one of my town halls.
I am asking you an honest question, and you're welcome to answer it any way you'd like. You're telling me in this committee that at one of your town halls,
I have said at my town halls
let me
and
finish
meetings,
my question.
At town halls and my meetings,
you'll have an opportunity to answer. Let
me
finish my question. You've held 10 town halls across Wyoming.
Yes.
And at those town halls, Wyoming residents, constituents have said to you, I would like you to rename the Gulf of Mexico. Has that happened?
Yes.
That has happened?
At the meetings that I have held, as I have said to you repeatedly now, I not only am holding town halls, I'm holding meetings with my constituents.
Sure.
The entire agenda that President Trump ran on, they've talked to me about no taxes on tips.
That's not, I'm not asking you about no taxes on tips.
They have talked to me about renaming the Gulf of America. They have talked to me about the oil and gas development that we have down there. They have talked about exporting energy out of the Gulf of America.
I'll reclaim my time because I think it's a shame.
And I would.
So you're calling me. I think what you're saying is you don't believe what I'm saying.
I'm saying that I would love to come to a town hall, and so I'll certainly look forward to. What we may do is we may just consider doing a town hall in Wyoming myself, so that I can get a better sense from Republicans, Democrats, unaffiliated people of Wyoming as to what their priorities are. My sense is I'm not disagreeing with you that there are many folks in Wyoming who believe that the Congress ought to be pursuing policies that President Trump supports. What I am suggesting is that I find it a little bit unbelievable that of all the issues that the American people are dealing with, that my constituents are dealing with, that your constituents are dealing with, that at these town halls, renaming the Gulf of Mexico was a top priority. I suspect that the people of your state—
One of the things
that
you're ignoring—
I'm not done talking. You'll have an opportunity to respond. I don't believe that the people in your state, nor the people in mine, would identify renaming the Gulf of Mexico as their top priority. And I find it absurd that we have to engage in this discussion to act as though this is anything but abnormal, that this is sort of just regular order, that yes, in the first 4 months of the 119th Congress, the Republican majority has decided that this is so important that we ought to take floor time to rename the Gulf of Mexico, notwithstanding all of the other policies that I suspect many of your supporters, many of the citizens that you represent are passionate about. I find that hard to believe. And apparently I'm the only one, or at least you and I disagree about this, but I suspect my colleagues maybe on this side of the aisle concur in that assessment. But in any event, I am happy to give you an opportunity to respond. And
so one of the things, Mr. Neguse, that you are ignoring is the fact that the state of Wyoming and my constituents in Wyoming have a very close connection to the Gulf of America because we are one of the largest energy producers in the nation. We are the largest coal producer. We're the eighth largest oil and gas producer. Our resources, our oil and gas and coal are actually exported out of the Gulf of America. So it is something that is at the forefront of the minds of the people in the state of Wyoming. I also want to point out one thing.
What does this bill do to help them?
I want to point out one other thing that you did, which is a very clever trick, which is that you asked me if I'd been asked any questions, and I told you that I had. And when you did your soliloquy there at the end, you accused me of being dishonest and disingenuous by then converting that to being the top priority. I didn't say that it was the top priority, but I did say that I was asked questions, and there has been discussions.
So let's have this semantics debate then.
Not only in the meetings that I've held, but when I have met with people who actually have a direct connection to the Gulf of America. So I think what you're trying to imply is that Wyoming has no interest in the Gulf of America, when in fact the state of Wyoming, with our energy resources,
Ms. Hageman, have you testified in front of this?
Okay,
I've been generous with my time.
America.
Have you testified in front of this committee yet this year? Is this your first time testifying in front of this committee?
Probably this year, but not last year. No,
I'm asking you this year. I'm saying in the last 4 months, since the 119th Congress has started, this is your first time testifying, right?
I think so.
You're chairwoman of the Water, Fisheries, and Wildlife Subcommittee, are you not?
Yes.
And this is the first bill that you have decided to present to this committee on behalf of the state that you serve. So this notion, I'm saying to you, whether you or the Republican majority have picked this as a priority is besides the point. Clearly, this is what you all have decided to spend your time on in the opening months of the 119th Congress. Maybe that's what the people of, I guess, is what you're testifying to today, is that the people of Wyoming expect that from you and they support that. I can certainly tell you that in Colorado, of all of the issues that are important to the residents of my state, Gulf of America renaming does not crack the top 3, the top 10 of issues that my constituents care about. You clearly feel differently. That's your prerogative. I'll yield back the balance of my time.